Hi, everybody, and welcome to Astrology Unplugged. My name is Rick DiClemente. We're on every week at 8 Eastern Time. And usually we talk about astrology-related items about 3 out of every 4 weeks, and then I have guests on with different weird subjects. Kind of like coast to coast, in a sense. I wanted to talk to you tonight about something that came to me, and I want to talk to you about a few items before that. Tonight's main topic is what's in the near future for us. And we're only going to deal with the outer planets tonight because they move slower. We're only going to deal with Saturn outward. The reason I'm wearing this shirt is to show you all the new planets we have. That's what's going on, because it's not just Aries, buddy. We got a whole bunch more to come on. And it doesn't look, they don't travel in a straight line like that, but that's the closest I could find. I wanted to bring up something first. I realized last week I went pretty quickly over a certain topic. I want to go over it again because I want you to understand what's going on. When I talk about the rising sign and how the houses are developed from that. For now, I want you to not think about the astronomical zodiac and the astrological zodiac, which are different. I don't want to talk about that right now. That'll confuse you. We're going to consider tonight that they're the same. So if we were back at the year 0, about the time of Christ, the two zodiacs were the same. And if you were born like Marcia, if you were in the winter, in January, in late December, if you drew a line, remember astrology is geocentric. Our astrology is geocentric. We put the Earth in the middle, we put the planets around, and we put them equidistant. And they look like they're equidistant, but of course, they're much further out than some planets. But for our purposes, it works out well. It's just amazing how it works. Okay, so Mars was born in December. So if you're on the Earth and you draw a line through the sun, keep on going, it goes out and it intersects that constellation of Capricorn. Well, it really doesn't, but back in the year 0 it did. And I'll explain that precession of the equinoxes later. But for tonight's purpose, I want you to understand that. Okay, so Deborah's born. Deborah's born, we're on that same Earth. The Earth is always spinning. We puncture a line through the sun, go through it out to the zodiac, and we intercept the sign, the constellation of Taurus. That's what's known as your sun sign. Where the houses come in and the rising sign comes in is, let's picture now Deborah's born, we're looking through the sun, we're drawing a line out through the sign of Taurus, but are we facing it? Are we our back to it? Is it to our right? Is it to our left? That's how you get your 4 angles. When I'm looking at the sun in Taurus, or I'm looking at the opposite, I'm looking at Scorpio and the sun of Taurus is behind me, or if it's on my left or right, you have 4 different meanings. Voila, that's where the houses come from. So the house systems are wonderful topics for these astronomers and mathematicians to fight over, and that's where they get their famous name from Coke to Regiomontanus to Placidus to all these different names that you hear, different rising systems. People use different house systems. All they are different ways of dividing up time and space. Placidus is the most popular, and even though the Placidus houses look different sizes, the planets go through those houses at the same speed. So that's because the Earth is tilted. So that's why the house systems look irregular, and they are. And if you've got somebody born in Oslo, you have teeny tiny houses, and you have other houses like this, because the Earth is greatly tilted. But anyhow, the main thing to know is that When you're born, and I've determined in my mind as of last night, I can't get into that, Susan. What's the difference, Eastern and Western? Just too big. I will gladly get into that later. Write that down for a future date. So I didn't know the difference between Eastern and Western astrology. We're going to stick to the one topic for now. Now, let me get this straight here. So the rising sign is simply the moment you're born, which I believe is the moment the child takes its first breath. Some people believe it is conception. Some people believe it's when the body is separate. Many believe, and I used to believe, it's when the umbilical cord got cut. I believe now it's when the child takes its first breath. Okay, and that's really critical for fine work that you do later on. So when you're born, you have somebody look off the eastern horizon. See that the left side in the zodiac is the east. It's reversed because you're looking down on it. Have somebody, when the moment you're born, look off to the east, and if they were able to intersect the zodiac, the constellation, that's your rising sign. What's above you is your midheaven. So when I was talking about being born on a space shuttle, that thing is rotating like crazy. Who knows? You can't feel it. That split second when you're born sets up all your houses. This is an unbelievable thought. Okay. We will talk later on about how when you draw a line in the year 2019, when you draw a line through the sun and Deborah's born, one line hits Taurus and the other line hits Aries. That's the astronomers versus the astrologers. One zodiac never changes, that's the astrologers. The astronomers' zodiac continues to change. The two zodiacs are separating all the time on a 26,000-year cycle. And they call that the precession of the equinoxes. And I'll explain that to you someday, but I don't want to confuse you. And myself. By the way, those of you, thank you for tuning in on, hello, Mr. Stigall. Thank you all for tuning in on YouTube, and to join us live any week, 8 o'clock Eastern. Just get yourself a camera and type in Astrology Unplugged into Google, and that'll take you to my link on Zoom, which is what we're using. Is similar to Skype. Okay, brings up tonight's subject. Now, tonight's subject is what's happening in the near future. Now, you need to go back in time a little bit before me. Let's go to the zodiac right away. All right. You'll notice the zodiac I'm using tonight. I'm using it where you can see the whole zodiac drawn on the outside, and the houses are not that important, and we're only using planets, Uranus, Saturn, Uranus. Where's Neptune? How did Neptune get off there? We didn't mean to do that. Let's take a look at that. Let's go get Neptune. We don't want to throw Neptune out of here. Yeah. Okay. So now you see Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron, Aries. Okay. Now, most of my life, when I was born, Pluto was here. When I started doing astrology, Pluto was up here. So I've followed Pluto very closely ever since it's gone through all these signs. And now this is exactly where it's at right now. Okay, so most of the time that Liza and I were learning from 1977 on, the planets were kind of fair to each other. They shared central stage. You would talk about Neptune one month, then you talk about Uranus one month. And all of a sudden, here came 2005, and I saw Pluto about to enter. Pluto was in Sag from 1995 to 2008. Here Pluto went through Sag 1995, 2008. Now, I'm going to take my time with this. Pluto is on a very irregular orbit. The fact is, it's very elliptical. It goes out and it comes around, it speeds up, and it goes around, which means that Pluto's only in Sag for 13 years, and in Gemini, 30 years. 13 years, 15 years, 30 years. That's typical for Pluto. They're all different. As we saw Pluto entering Capricorn, she and I started to write about this in local newspapers and magazines about the time Pluto was entering Capricorn. That was 2008. Well, to give you perspective, what was happening in 1995 was what? People were lined up around the block to do what? To buy windows. To buy windows. 1995 is when people, you click on an image and the box opened up. Wow, that was cool. Everybody's lined up everywhere around the block to buy windows, and Mr. Gates was getting filthy rich. So when Pluto went through Sag from 95 to 2008, it was a very Sagittarian time. And it was landmarked by the escalation of credit cards, borrowing. It's typical of Sag. Let's have fun now, worry about the future later. That's a typical part of Sag. And when Pluto left Capricorn on January 25th in 2008, well, you had already had the crash in late 2007. Even though Pluto wasn't there yet, it was close, and that's what caused the financial crash. And the, what's it called? What's the body that sets all the interest rates?
The Treasury.
What is the
Federal Reserve.
The
Federal Reserve.
Thank you very much. Just keeping up with an old man here. Okay, the Federal Reserve is 2 degrees. So the sun in the Federal Reserve System is right here. So when Pluto crossed in, the Federal Reserve was sitting right by the door, and the door smacked him in the ear. And that's why it was one of the reasons it was such a tremendous shock to the financial systems. So as it was going through Scorpio, you got to remember that most of us astrologers, we didn't know a thing about anything called Aries yet. Aries was theorized in 2003. It was found in 2005. So our mind was on Pluto. Now, while our mind was on Pluto, and we're writing all these articles, people weren't getting with it yet, because it takes time for the collective to change. About 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, around about 2009, 2010, 2011, people started realizing, oh, there's some real trouble here. Place is falling apart. Now remember, I've told you that in my opinion, the 4 stages of Pluto are 1, what the hell is going on? Oh, there's nothing. Oh, no, I'm just imagining that. There's no problem. It's denial. That's what was going on before 08, 09, 10, 11 is still denial. Because we keep on keeping on. We keep on putting more Winnebagos in the driveway, and nobody's paying for it, but so what? Somehow the American machine is going to keep working. Somehow we're going to keep working for $50 an hour while this little slave over in India is working for $1 an hour. We think never the twain shall meet. Eventually, as Pluto got itself on into Capricorn further, you started to see in 09, 10, 11, people started realizing, oh my God, we got to do something about it. And all this corruption was hitting. This all started with Enron back before Pluto hit Capricorn, and all these different entities with all the corruption. And now you can't even name an entity that doesn't have it. Buying people's way into Harvard. What they're doing now. By God, we're going to get with these priests, and we're going to arrest these priests. They've been screwing over kids for 70 years. It's catching up everywhere. So Pluto uncovers the pus. uncovers the disruption, the distortion. So then people started getting used to it. And that's pretty normal. We knew it was coming. And even though Liza and I wrote about these things specifically in 2005, still when we saw them come about, it still shocked us because we were writing versus experiencing. Then something really weird happened. We still got very crucial Pluto things coming. But then Aries was discovered. And this new book that I keep showing you, Discovery of Aries, is just phenomenal. Around 05, Pluto's demoted in 06. Confusion came. And at the same time, Neptune was very active. You don't need Neptune real active with Chiron. Why you got confusion problems? Neptune is confusion. So as we see here on the zodiac, as we see here, we're going to step by years. Okay, we're going to go back in time. 08. This is how things were when Pluto had entered Capricorn. Here you see the sign of Capricorn. Here's Pluto at 0 degrees. It's going to go back and forth all the way to 2023. So right now Pluto is about 23. It's about here. We're about 2/3 of the way through it. But when it got about halfway, who pops his head up but Aries? We never heard of the guy, the gal, the lady, the god, the goddess of discord. And I'm writing documents and I'm writing all these newsletters itemized every week, and people are getting very angry with me because I stopped doing it. I stopped telling them what's going to happen each month. And they write to me and say, why don't you keep doing that? Well, you can only see what you can see. When we make stuff up, I didn't know what was happening. I was attributing a lot of the confusion to Neptune, but it wasn't Neptune. It was Aries. So when Aries came about, and when she's discovered, was about 2005, 2006. Here's Aries at 21, Pluto's at 26. 5-degree orb, that's pretty strong. So, I was telling a friend of mine once that the planets become active in our personalities when we see them. He said, well, that's ridiculous. There's nothing about astrology. He said, hey, that's just because we've got a powerful telescope. That's why. 17th century, we saw Uranus. We were ready for Uranus inside ourselves. No longer can we think on a linear yardstick. The yardstick is okay. We're getting distortion from somebody. Hold on, please. Somebody is not muted. Okay. It's this one here. 515 number. Okay. So, somebody out there's got to keep track of what's on my mind because I lose it. Okay. So in the 1700s, we discover Uranus. Uranus becomes in our mind. We're ready to see it. We're ready to see it. Industrial Revolution. 18th century, 19th century, Neptune. We discover all these gases. We discover the spiritual church, spiritual matters. Neptune. We're ready for Neptune. 2000s. 20th century, 1930, Pluto, Adolf Hitler, atomic weapons. We're ready for it. Don't take this lightly. Twilight Zone. What's going on in your unconscious mind? Ooh, what unconscious mind? Ooh. We were all freaking out. What's down in my unconscious? I don't know what that even is, right? And that's why I think it was demoted in '06, because we didn't have to worry about it as much. 1977, Chiron. What happened? Freudian psychology, you're right. What happens in 1977? Everybody wants to be a healer. Everybody wants to be a healer. We've seen Chiron. Chiron found in November of '77. The first astrologer in mythology was Chiron. 2 months later, I became an astrologer. Right about that time, Liza became an astrologer. Stephen Poplin, all three of us started around the same time as Chiron was discovered. So, the reason Pluto was demoted was because we discovered 80 new planet-like bodies in '06. So we had to either add 80 new planets, including Ceres and including Pluto and including Aries, or we had to change the rules. So they chose to demote Ceres and to demote Pluto and then redefine. Okay, so the point is, with 80 new planets here, it's symbolic that the mind, all of a sudden, on a exponential scale, we're now ready to think on multiple dimensions. We're way past the days. Look how boring it looks when you watch Twilight Zone now. It wasn't boring back then. It scared the hell out of you. So what was happening? You got to be very careful as an astrologer. Oh, we have a new planet, and this is what it means. How do you know is what it means? How do you know? Because from the mythology? Well, by now, we've had 14 years of Eris out of a 540-year orbit. We've only had about 15 years of it. We're starting to understand what she's about. And what we understand is she's quite like Pluto. She's even stronger, but she's different. So to be getting Pluto and Eris at the same time, let alone the fact that they came out square to each other, was why the confusion. Now, it certainly explained to me, and I was glad, and I had the faith. I kept saying to myself, have the faith, don't worry about your crispness, your decisive ability, something's going on. And I kept attributing it to Neptune because Neptune was traveling with Chiron through Pisces. Okay, so now what we're seeing clearly is Miss Eris. So, what we're really seeing now, all the other things have become minuscule. What's really happening now is we're continuing to watch the heavy duty. Oh, I'm going to go back to the current time. I'm sorry. Okay, this is right now. We're seeing Pluto at 23. We're watching Pluto end up its final stages in the next 4 years in Capricorn. While we're just now getting tuned in. Look at it now. It's exactly square. 2302, 2359. These two are really in each other's face. So there's no way you're going to see either one of them clearly now. It's just not possible, even though they're very similar. Now keep in mind, these two planets, I'm calling them planets, are very powerful, and they're talking about the collective. Now, we see that Eris entered Aries in 1921. It will take 121 years to go through the sign of Aries until it leaves. So it's got a ways to go. My whole lifetime, it's gone from 5 to 23. My whole lifetime. So, now, not only are we becoming convinced, and we're actually becoming convinced of Eris at a rather rapid rate, okay? But we're starting to understand what she's about. Let's go back to Pluto. What has Pluto given us? Pluto has, number one thing Pluto does is it wants to see if you're abusing your power. We saw all these things about WikiLeaks. We saw all these different things happen. Look what's happening in DC now, where everything about us is we're questioning how we're using or abusing our power. So it's continuing what it's doing, digging up the dirt, exposing all these corrupt politicians and systems. We saw Pluto go over opposite the United States sun. When it opposed the sun the last 3 or 4 years, is when we saw great big identity crises in the country. We're still seeing it. These big planets go for years. The effects go for years. When you read Taurus's books take time for them to really come to fruition. The difference now is Aries is quite different. Remember, Pluto is, you get with your evolution. I'm going to give you lots of warning. I'm going to give you lots of warning. When you start to screw up and you're not taking the warnings, I'm going to start separating you from your power. I'm going to start separating you from your support system. Things are going to become more and more dire. Eventually, you're not listening, so I'll get rid of you. That's Pluto. Aries is totally different. Aries says, I don't care what I got to do to the party. Okay, all you people that are texting, I hope you can answer each other because I just can't take the moment to look at your texts. But please do. Chatting, I mean. Okay, you people on YouTube don't see it, but we are making chat messages to each other, and that's cool. I just cannot attend to each one. Now, the difference with Aries doesn't care. Aries has a violent streak. A very dark, violent streak because it can't stand unfairness. It is the Me Too movement. It can't stand people that are not counted. It will throw the apple into the party, which is what she did as a goddess. She will disrupt the party. Okay, you seen any disruption lately? So about the time Aries became conscious is about the time Mr. Trump went into office. And it's taken me time to see this, but the shadow side of Aries is disruption for disruption's sake. Unfortunately, his people think he's disrupting because he wants to clean up the swamp. He brought the damn super swamp with him. But he's got these people kidded. He's got 3 planets in Libra. He's got sad stuff. He's the car salesman. He can do it. He's taking advantage of this. He is the ugly American. And in my opinion, I think he's the closest thing we've seen in a long time that's been called the Antichrist. My opinion. Why? Because he's not really doing anything for anything except for himself. And Aries is not that way. Aries has a really good side. Aries is very pro-Libran. It's very much behind the Libra nature of fairness to everybody. Do whatever we can. Look at the people being locked in cages. I mean, the drastic things that are happening now. Whatever it is, we're going to deal with it now. Anything can happen. By God, we're having the worst talk you could possibly have now. People are talking about matter of years till the planet's done. That's some scary stuff. About the only thing that could be worse is the outbreak of some worldwide flu or disease. Don't count that out. You got to remember, the planets don't care if we exist or not. They don't care if us humans exist. The planets are simply like staring at the hands on a clock. So one of the things that's going on now, it's very important to note, is we've got to be able to separate what is Pluto, what is Aries. And it's really hard when they're directly squaring each other. And they're going to continue. Now let's put them on the burner for a second. Also during the next several years, you're going to see Saturn's going to join up with Pluto. They're 3 degrees apart now. You think that's a picnic? That's Holocaust stuff. That's Twin Towers stuff. It doesn't mean that's going to happen, but it's very likely things like that will happen. But the 2 serious planets of the zodiac are going to travel together in the most serious soil there is, the sign of Capricorn. What's that a sign of? That's a sign of we're going to really test your institutions. And I don't think our institutions are even done reeling from the light that's been shown upon them recently, let alone have been rebuilt. So that's why you're seeing such heaviness here. And thank God, and I thank God in my life that I told you a couple weeks ago that I came up with a feeling that I believe now that we are being helped. We're being guided and we're being helped. I don't know who it is, I don't know how it is, I can't understand it, but I feel it, and a lot of people have predicted it, and I think that they're helping us, and just thank Goddess. Okay? Thank Goddess. Now, one of the things I was thinking about tonight, one of the problems of being an astrologer is that you're an astrologer. In other words, you're going to continue to look at things through the light of the planets. While other people who are psychic or they're mediums are picking up things indirectly, they're picking up directly by their intuition, and intuition doesn't have any boundaries. So it's a tough thing to mix all that together. Because an awful lot of what these intuitives told us back in 2012 with the Mayan calendar, a lot of that stuff was absolutely right. The big shift. They were absolutely right. And they're doing it now with other things. Back to astrology. So you're going to have the Saturn and Pluto together. If we just take an eraser and get rid of Aries, you're going to be dealing with just Saturn and Pluto in Scorpio or in Capricorn. But you can't take an eraser to Aries. It's here. So what does it mean? What it means is never before have your actions been so minusculely important. Every little thing you do has now under the microscope. It's that important. What you do is affecting the all. And we have a whole lot of chunks of people that don't think that way. You were telling me, Deborah, earlier, people still rolling down their windows and throwing their trash out. A disgusting thought. Terrible thought. So that's what it means. Thy country who cleaneth up the most takes upon thy most social consciousness and responsibility will do the rest. And the country that does the opposite, oh boy, they're in trouble. You think we can keep continuing to quit these clubs and quit these agreements and quit these treaties and slapping everybody in the face that wants to clean up the planet? Oh no, we're not going to be involved. We think we could just keep doing this and everybody's just going to keep seeing America on the top? That's over with. We have lost the world's respect. And we deserve to, until we earn it back. Now, an awful lot of good people doing a lot of great things, and when you got Saturn and Pluto, it's not just negative, it's powerful, powerful stuff. So one of the symbols, and I think it's going to be really interesting to watch, I think you're going to see in the 2020 election, you're going to see a grassroots campaign that's going to blow your mind apart. It's going to make what Obama did look small. You're going to see people fed up, and they're going to do something about it. And they're going to go after the cheaters. You think this recent abortion stuff's going to fly in Alabama? Already they're talking about don't buy gas in Alabama. Gas up before you hit that state line. Did you have a question, Deborah? Did you have a statement? Okay. I just saw your hand. I wondered. Okay. But you're starting to see the power of the people come out. Now, the difference with Aries is Aries doesn't care what kind of scene it makes. Aries doesn't care. as long as the end product is there. And the end product is that we all are treated fairly, that we're all counted. You think we're going to get away with more funny business at the election booth, more funny number counting? It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. Because the sense of fairness to Aries is absolute. This is brand new. This is way beyond Pluto. Pluto doesn't work in these areas. Aries' theory is, I'll disrupt anything I got to so that we can get to where we need to be. Pluto is, I will do away with you until you show that you are courageous. It's very different kinds of energy. So those are kind of things that you're going to continue to see. You're going to continue to see the dark side of Aries, which is what a lot of the Trump supporters are doing, and you're going to start seeing the light side of Aries, which is a lot of people are doing through the grassroots and the kids at the high school in Florida coming together. They want to be heard. They want to be counted. Now you're starting to see this impenetrable chart for the NRA starting to falter. That chart is incredibly strong, but it's starting to crack. Okay? We all walking around keep saying, something's got to give. Well, it's giving. Okay, so meanwhile, while all the big planets are having fun, Uranus has just entered Taurus. It's backed out. It's gone back in. It's going to be about another 6.5 years. 6.5 years going through the sign of Taurus. You're already seeing revolutions with the land, with the soil, what we're doing with windmills, what we're doing with different kinds of gardens within the cities, the new revolutionary concepts with housing. All the Taurian type things are happening. And Uranus is not currently in a fight with these guys. It's kind of out of the way, so that's good, but it sure is stirring up the fixed signs of Taurus and Scorpio and Leo and Aquarius. Okay, meanwhile, Neptune and Chiron, which were together for so long, are greatly separated now. They're actually in two different signs. Neptune is continuing to do its very powerful work in the sign of Pisces. Well, Neptune is 184 years, 186 years around. So Neptune is at its strongest when it's at home in Pisces. This is one reason that so many people are getting so accurate with their intuition. And so many more people, it's becoming more and more common. I'm seeing it left and right when 10, 20 years ago, people were trying and they were guessing and they were kind of lukewarm and it was in the really early stages. Well, another thing that I'm seeing clearly is Neptune has had a tremendous impact on the Virgo people who are opposite the zodiac. I don't think it's had much of an impact on Pisces. Pisces is a very hard sign to talk about. But it's really had an impact on the Virgos. The Virgos who used to be known as being perfectionistic and getting everything done just right. The Neptune has really helped the people with the Virgo planets to relax, to not get so neurotic about stuff, to start letting things be instead of being neurotic, trying to fix everything. I've seen the Virgo people take very well to Neptune. Neptune is very much like, I would say, goddess energy. And it's very pure. It's going to continue. And remember, we're looking at all these things as if they're separate energies, and they're not. This is all one big energy. We're just breaking it down so that we can understand it in certain ways. Back on the chart. You can't see Saturn in Capricorn now. All of us Capricorns, I got planets at 21 degrees of Libra. We cannot pick up Saturn, what it's doing now, because Pluto's next to it. So whether you like it or not, they're going to be intermixed. Saturn is going to go on through and on into the sign of Aquarius, and it will have gone through Capricorn with not really making a pure Saturnian statement. Okay, if you go through the greatest book about this, which is Richard Tarnus's Cosmos and Psyche, where he clearly shows you through the past what happened when Saturn and Pluto traveled together. It's really, really jaw-dropping, okay? And what these things mean, Liza nailed this one. They're epical. Everybody's telling us that. I'm trying to tell my son that I understand what you're going through, but I certainly can't understand it because my day and time was kind of normal. But this, what you're going through, is unbelievable. You turn the TV on, now it's like, oh, God, let me look at the corner of the screen to see what possibly could get screwed up today. It's that crazy. So you can see one reason it's hard for Capricorns now. You have to always look at your ruling planet and what's happening to it. Just like you're in Vietnam and you're captured and your leader gets taken in for torture. Whatever you're in, when your ruler is taken and something happens to your ruler, it happens to you. Well, our ruler, going through the very stern sign of Capricorn, has that Pluto go, oh, let me serenade you. Let me accompany you while you're making your trip through Capricorn. So Saturn wasn't waiting on that. Pluto's with it. And we're always looking to Saturn to find a softer side, please. And Pluto's not going to bring that. These are stern energies. Okay, so when you got stern energies, what do? You take stern action. Somebody's agreeing. I'll find out who that is. There it is. Okay. So, all of this stuff does not mean it's going to be doomsday. There are a lot of doomsday type things that are very scary, and we know this. But that's why one of the things you're hearing from people is we need to take strong action. And you're seeing that with so many people. I know with Suzanne, she's coming out almost every day, every other day with some thought, some club, some philosophy to heed, to look at. I mean, she's very, very much aware of the trouble spot that we're in. And they're all very good things to be considering. I look at this group every week and I'm really proud because we have a bunch of really good, serious people. You know, they're trying to do the work. The big thing that we need to talk about, without a doubt, is separating the difference between what Pluto's got to do and what Aries has to do. This is all new. What's left with Pluto? Pluto's going to get to 26. Pluto's going to conjunct Saturn. Pluto's going to get to 26 and it's going to return where it started in the USA's chart at 26 Capricorn, 1776. That by itself, you can erase every other planet and just look at that one factor of Pluto returning 256 years later. What does the return of a planet do? It gives you a final exam on the seed that was planted in 1776. And this is why you're hearing so much talk now about a Constitution version 2.0. Here we got this idiot doing crazy stuff. He doesn't even consult the Congress. Everything is executive order, which is not how this was meant to be, King Donald. Because loopholes have been found in Constitution version 1.0. It's a perfect time to develop a version 2.0, or amendments for sure, because the Constitution's awful good. But we're finding how hard it is to get rid of a barnacle on the side of the ship. What do? We can't try him for anything. He's not answerable to anything. And we got the perfect user in place. He knows how to play these games. Okay, so in that way, these things are good because they're showing us our weak spots. The problem all along has been, how much can we take? How much can we take? So when you shift over and start thinking of Aries, what you think about Aries is not as patient as Pluto. Aries is bam, boom, bang, let's do it. When they say they want to be heard, they want to be heard. When the kids say they want to be heard in Florida, they want to be heard. When the women are upset about abortion, they're upset. They're going to do something about it. When people are upset about the guns, you're going to see the guns change. All this stuff's going to change. With the people petitioning and protesting in France, all throughout the country. In India, you're going to see it happening everywhere. So it has to happen. The thing that really has to happen is we have to somehow get through to the people that think they're using Aries on the plus side, but are really using Aries on the minus side. We've got to get through to them and show them how they're really shooting themselves in the foot. And I just got to say good luck. Okay? I'm going to turn off the feed to YouTube right now because I think they got the idea. I thank you for tuning in. You can go to my webpage anytime, which is starself.com. There's a link right on the main page that takes you to all 126 videos or whatever they are. And thanks for joining us. See you next week. Meanwhile, we'll just continue on with our private discussion.